r/AITA I exposed my coach's favoritism after walking in on him insulting me. AITA for exposing my coach's favoritism after walking in on him insulting me. The sound of Coach Martinez's voice stopped me dead in my tracks outside the equipment room. I'd come back to grab my water bottle after practice, still dripping sweat and exhausted from running suicides for what felt like the 100th time this week. But something in his tone made me freeze with my hand halfway to the door handle. Honestly, don't know why the kid even bothers showing up, he was saying, and I could hear the cruel amusement in his voice. Did you see those shots today? Couldn't hit the broad side of a barn if it was painted with a target. My stomach dropped. He was talking about me. Had to be, I'd had an off day shooting during scrimmage, going 2 for 8 from the field. But I'd been working on my form every day after practice for months, staying late in the gym until the janitors kicked me out. The really pathetic part, Coach continued, and I could hear papers shuffling, is that the parents are probably spending a fortune on those fancy shoes and private training camps. All that money down the drain for a benchwarmer who'll never see real minutes. Assistant Coach Kim's uncomfortable laugh echoed through the door. Come on, Martinez. The kid works hard. Never misses practice, always the first one here. Work ethic doesn't fix lack of talent, Coach Martinez cut him off sharply. And honestly, the whole look doesn't help either. Scrawny, awkward, not exactly the image we want representing our program. Some kids are just meant to ride the bench and make the real players look better in comparison. My face burned with humiliation. I'd grown 3 inches this summer but hadn't filled out yet, still all elbows and knees despite the protein shakes my mom bought that cost more than our grocery budget should allow. She'd been picking up extra shifts at the diner just to pay for my AAU fees and training camps, convinced that basketball was my ticket to college. The really sad thing, Coach continued, his voice getting more animated like he was enjoying himself, is that they actually think they have a shot at varsity minutes this year. I've seen the way they look at the starting lineup board, all hopeful. It's almost cruel to keep them on the team, but we need bodies for practice scrimmages. My hands were shaking now. I'd made varsity as a junior, something I'd dreamed about since freshman year. Sure, I wasn't starting, but I thought I was proving myself. Every sprint, every drill, every extra hour in the weight room. I thought it mattered. Mark my words, Coach Martinez said with finality, this one will never amount to anything in basketball. Probably better off focusing on academics or getting a part-time job. Some people just aren't cut out for competitive sports. I heard chairs scraping against the floor and footsteps approaching the door. Heart pounding, I ducked behind the water fountain, pressing myself against the wall as they emerged. Coach Martinez was laughing about something else now, but my ears were ringing too loud to make out the words. After they disappeared down the hallway, I stood there for a long moment, my reflection staring back at me from the trophy case glass. The same scrawny, awkward kid Coach Martinez had just torn apart. But something else was there too, something harder than hurt. I pulled out my phone and opened the voice recorder app. If this was how Coach really felt about his players when he thought no one was listening, maybe it was time other people knew about it too. The next few days passed in a blur of forced normalcy. I showed up to practice, ran the drills, took the criticism that now felt like daggers, and pretended everything was fine. But every time Coach Martinez looked in my direction with that fake encouraging smile, I wanted to scream. Johnson. Pick up the pace, he barked during defensive slides, his voice carrying that same condescending edge I'd heard in the equipment room. The team's only as strong as its weakest link. I pushed harder, my legs burning, but caught the smirk he exchanged with assistant Coach Kim. They both knew I was giving everything I had, and they thought it was pathetic. The worst part was watching how differently he treated the starters. When Marcus, Coach's obvious favorite, showed up 10 minutes late to practice, it was, no worries, son, we all run behind sometimes. When Marcus's shooting was off, it was, just finding your rhythm, keep your confidence up. But when I was 30 seconds late because my mom's car wouldn't start, I ran extra laps. When my shots weren't falling, I was lacking focus and not taking this seriously enough. The inequality was so blatant I couldn't believe I'd never noticed it before. Or maybe I had noticed, but I'd made excuses, told myself I needed to earn respect. Now I saw it for what it really was. By Thursday, I'd made my decision. I stayed after practice, hiding in the supply closet near Coach's office with my phone ready. The small space smelled like disinfectant and old leather, and I had to control my breathing to stay quiet. My hands were sweating so much I nearly dropped my phone twice. It didn't take long. Talked to the athletic director about cutting the roster, Coach Martinez was saying to someone, sounded like Coach Kim again. We've got dead weight we need to shed. My thumb hit record. Johnson's at the top of that list, he continued, and my heart hammered so loud I worried it would show up on the recording. Kid's been here 3 years and hasn't improved worth a damn. Takes up space, brings down the energy in practice. Honestly, I'm doing them a favor, save them from the embarrassment of warming the bench all season. What about the parents? Coach Kim asked. They've invested a lot of money. Not my problem they threw good money after bad, Coach Martinez laughed. Maybe next time they'll be more realistic about their kids' limitations. Some parents just can't accept that their precious child isn't special. The words hit me like a physical blow. My mom had been so proud when I made varsity, posting about it on Facebook and calling my grandparents. She'd framed my team photo and put it on the kitchen counter where she could see it while doing dishes. Besides, Coach continued, we can use that roster spot for someone with actual potential. I've got my eye on a transfer student, 6'2", real athletic build, not like these string bean projects we keep wasting time on. I had enough. More than enough. But as I crept out of the closet and headed for the exit, a horrible thought hit me. What if no one believed me? What if they said I'd faked the recording somehow? Coach Martinez was popular with the administration, had been here for 8 years, won 2 conference championships. I was just a scrawny benchwarmer with an axe to grind. I needed more than just audio. I needed witnesses, documentation, something undeniable. And I was pretty sure I knew exactly how to get it. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. Friday after practice, I was grabbing my stuff from the locker room when I overheard Marcus talking to Tyler and Devin about staying late to work on plays. Coach Martinez had apparently promised them extra court time to fine-tune their chemistry before next week's scrimmage against our biggest rival. Coach said he'd order pizza too, Marcus was saying, looking pleased with himself. Perks of being varsity starters, I guess. I felt that familiar sting, but this time it came with something else, opportunity. If Coach was staying late with just his favorites, his guard would be down. He'd probably say even worse things when he thought it was just his inner circle. I made a show of packing up slowly, waiting until most of the team had cleared out. Then I doubled back through the side entrance using the key code I'd memorized from months of early morning workouts. The gym was dimly lit, with just the court lights on, casting long shadows across the bleachers. I could hear voices echoing from the court, Coach Martinez's unmistakable bark mixed with the sounds of sneakers squeaking and balls bouncing. Perfect cover. I crept up into the bleachers, finding a spot behind the scorer's table where I had a clear view but could stay hidden in the shadows. My phone was already recording as I settled in, heart pounding so hard I was sure they'd hear it 3 courts away. That's why we need to focus on the players who actually matter, Coach was saying as he passed the ball to Marcus. Can't waste energy on kids who'll never contribute when we've got championship potential sitting right here. Marcus grinned and took a shot that swished through the net. You thinking about cutting some of the dead weight, Coach? Already in motion, Coach Martinez replied, and my stomach clenched. Going to clean house before league play starts. Keep the roster tight, focused. No room for charity cases. Tyler laughed. You talking about Johnson? Dude's been trying so hard lately it's actually painful to watch. Like watching a car accident in slow motion, Devin added, and they all cracked up. Coach Martinez's laugh was the loudest of all. You know what the funniest part is? The kid actually thinks all that extra practice time is going to pay off. Stays after every day, working on fundamentals like it's going to magically give them talent. My face burned, but I kept the phone steady. This was exactly what I needed, video evidence of the mockery, the favoritism, the casual cruelty. Should we tell them to stop embarrassing themselves? Marcus asked, still chuckling. Nah, let them figure it out, Coach Martinez said, grabbing a ball and taking a shot himself. Besides, we need someone to make you guys look good in practice. Hard to appreciate real skill without something pathetic to compare it to. I was getting it all, the sneering expressions, the casual way they discussed destroying my dreams, the obvious pleasure they took in it. But just as I was starting to feel victorious, my phone buzzed with a low battery warning. The sound was barely audible, but in the quiet moment between their laughter and the next drill, it carried. Marcus's head snapped up toward the bleachers, his eyes scanning the shadows. You guys hear that? He asked, his voice suddenly alert. My heart stopped. I was trapped up here with nowhere to run, my phone still recording but about to die, and 3 of the most athletic kids in school between me and the exit. Coach Martinez was already walking toward the bleachers, his expression shifting from casual amusement to something much more dangerous. Who's up there? He called out, his voice echoing off the gym walls. Show yourself. Now. I crouched lower behind the scorer's table, but I could hear his footsteps on the metal bleacher stairs, getting closer with each step. The footsteps stopped right below me. I could hear Coach Martinez breathing heavily, probably scanning every shadow in the bleachers. My phone screen dimmed to conserve battery, and I carefully slipped it into my pocket, praying the recording had saved. Must have been the building settling, Devin called from the court. These old gyms make all kinds of noises. Yeah, Coach, Marcus added. Come on, let's run that pick and roll again. For a terrifying moment, Coach Martinez didn't move. I could practically feel him thinking, weighing whether to investigate further. Then his footsteps retreated back down the bleachers, metal clanging with each step. Probably just the heat kicking in, he muttered, but his voice carried a suspicious edge. Let's wrap this up anyway. We've got what we need. I stayed frozen behind the scorer's table for another 20 minutes, listening to them finish practice and finally leave. Only when I heard the main gym doors slam shut and the lights click off did I dare to move. My legs were cramped and shaking as I crept down from the bleachers in the dark, using my phone's flashlight to navigate. But as I made my way to the side exit, I realized my problems were just beginning. The recording was solid gold, clear video of Coach Martinez and his favorites openly mocking me and discussing my removal from the team. But what was I supposed to do with it now? I sat in my mom's car in the parking lot, staring at the footage on my phone. Coach Martinez's face was clearly visible as he laughed about my pathetic efforts. Marcus and the others were equally clear, their cruel comments captured in perfect audio. It was everything I needed to expose the truth. So why did I feel sick to my stomach? My phone buzzed with a text from my mom. How was practice, honey? Still planning to stay late tomorrow for extra shooting? The irony hit me like a slap. Here I was, armed with proof of exactly how worthless my coach thought those extra sessions were, and my mom was still believing in my dreams. She'd worked a double shift yesterday to pay for new basketball shoes I didn't even need, just because I'd mentioned my old ones were getting worn. Another text came through, this one from my teammate Jake. Heard coach is making cuts Monday. You nervous? My blood went cold. Monday. That was 3 days away. If Coach Martinez was serious about cleaning house, I had until then to decide what to do with this recording. I could release it now, blow up his whole operation, probably get him suspended or fired. But then what? Even if they brought in a new coach, would I ever really get a fair shot? Everyone would know I was the kid who secretly recorded the coaching staff. The snitch. The troublemaker who couldn't handle criticism. Or I could stay quiet, let myself get cut, and pretend none of this ever happened. Take the easy way out that wouldn't destroy anyone's career or turn me into a social pariah. But that would mean letting Coach Martinez keep doing this to other kids. How many more players like me were going to get their confidence shattered by his cruel comments? How many parents were going to waste their money believing their kids had a real chance? I started the car and drove home, the weight of the decision pressing down on me like a physical thing. Tomorrow was Saturday, no practice, which meant I had the whole weekend to figure out my next move. As I pulled into our driveway, I noticed my mom had left the kitchen light on for me. Through the window, I could see my team photo still sitting proudly on the counter, right next to a stack of college recruitment brochures she'd printed out. The recording felt like a bomb in my pocket, waiting to explode everything I'd worked for. But maybe some things needed to be destroyed before they could be rebuilt. Saturday morning, I woke up to the sound of my mom on the phone in the kitchen, her voice bright with pride. "Oh yes, he's doing so well this season," she was saying. "Coach Martinez has been really working with him on his fundamentals. We're hoping he'll see more playing time soon." I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to her paint this perfect picture that was nothing but lies. She was talking to my Aunt Linda. I could tell by the way Mom's voice got more animated, more boastful. Linda's son had gotten a partial basketball scholarship to a Division III school last year, and Mom had been trying to one-up that story ever since. The coach pulled me aside at the parent meeting, Mom continued, and my stomach dropped. Said he sees real potential in our boy. Just needs to keep working hard. That was complete fiction. Coach Martinez had never said anything like that. The most interaction he'd had with my parents was a brief handshake at the season kickoff barbecue. But Mom needed to believe it, needed something to show for all those extra shifts and sacrificed dinners out. I grabbed my phone and watched the recording again, the cruel laughter echoing through my earbuds. The contrast between what I was hearing and what my mom was saying downstairs made me feel like I was living in two different realities. My phone buzzed with a group text that made everything worse. Tyler *, anyone else hear about the emergency parent meeting Monday morning? Marcus *, yeah, my dad got the email. Something about roster adjustments and program direction. Jake *, shit, that sounds serious. Think someone's in trouble. Devin *, probably just coach covering his ass before cuts. Making sure parents can't complain. My hands were shaking as I screenshotted the conversation. This wasn't just about cutting me anymore. Coach Martinez was planning some kind of public spectacle. A parent meeting meant he was going to humiliate kids in front of their families, make a show of his tough decisions. I could picture it perfectly, my mom sitting in those uncomfortable gym chairs, still believing in my potential, while Coach Martinez explained why her son wasn't program material. All those sacrifices, all that hope, crushed in front of an audience. The recording suddenly felt like more than just evidence. It felt like a weapon I wasn't sure I had the guts to use. Another text came through, this one from an unknown number. Unknown *, this is Coach Kim. Need to talk to you before Monday. Can you meet me at the school gym Sunday morning? 8 a.m. Come alone. My blood turned to ice. Coach Kim had been there for both conversations I'd recorded. Either he was growing a conscience or somehow they knew I'd been listening. The "come alone" part made it sound more like a threat than a friendly chat. I deleted the message immediately, but the damage was done. My secret might not be as safe as I thought. Downstairs, Mom was wrapping up her phone call, still glowing with pride about my promising basketball career. I could hear her making plans to take time off work from Monday's meeting, talking about maybe getting me a suit to wear when the college scouts start coming around. The weight of what I was about to destroy hit me all at once. This wasn't just about exposing Coach Martinez anymore, it was about shattering my mom's dreams, potentially ruining multiple people's careers, and making myself a target for retaliation. But as I watched the recording one more time, seeing the pure malice on Coach Martinez's face as he mocked my efforts, I realized staying silent might destroy me instead. Sunday morning was going to bring answers, whether I was ready for them or not. Sunday morning arrived gray and drizzly, matching my mood perfectly. I barely slept, alternating between checking my phone for more mysterious messages and staring at the ceiling, replaying every possible scenario for how this could go wrong. By 7:30 a.m., I was sitting in my mom's car outside the school, watching the empty parking lot and second-guessing everything. The smart play would be to drive home, delete the recording, and accept whatever happened Monday. But every time I thought about backing down, I heard Coach Martinez's voice. Some people just aren't cut out for competitive sports. At exactly 8 a.m., Coach Kim's pickup truck pulled into the lot. He parked 3 spots away and gestured for me to follow him to the gym entrance. My legs felt like concrete as I walked over, the recorded evidence burning like a guilty secret in my pocket. "Thanks for coming," Coach Kim said quietly, unlocking the door. His usual easy smile was nowhere to be seen, replaced by something that looked almost like regret. "We need to clear the air about a few things." Inside, the empty gym felt cavernous and cold. Our footsteps echoed as we walked toward the bleachers, and I couldn't help but glance up at the spot where I'd hidden Friday night. If he knew about that. "Look, I'm going to be straight with you," Coach Kim said, turning to face me. "Coach Martinez is planning to cut you Monday. Along with 3 other players. The parent meeting is just window dressing, his mind's made up." My stomach dropped, even though I'd already known this was coming. Hearing it confirmed felt like a physical blow. "Why are you telling me this?" Coach Kim ran a hand through his hair, looking genuinely uncomfortable. "Because I've been coaching for 15 years, and what happened Friday night crossed a line. The things he said about you, about your family." He shook his head. "That's not coaching. That's just cruelty." "Wait. Friday night?" My heart started hammering. "I don't know what you mean." "The recording session with the starters," Coach Kim said gently. "I know you were there. Marcus thought he heard something, but I saw your car in the lot when I left. Took me until yesterday to put it together. I felt trapped, exposed. But something in his tone wasn't accusatory, it was almost apologetic. Are you going to tell Coach Martinez? That depends, Coach Kim said, sitting down on the bottom bleacher. What are you planning to do with whatever you recorded? The million-dollar question. I could lie, claim I didn't record anything, but what was the point now? I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to expose everything. But part of me just wants this nightmare to end. Coach Kim nodded slowly. I get it. And for what it's worth, you'd have every right to go public. What Martinez said about you was inexcusable. But before you decide. He pulled out his phone and showed me an email thread. You should know he's not planning to stop with just cuts. I read over his shoulder, my blood pressure spiking with each line. Coach Martinez was discussing program restructuring with the athletic director, talking about raising standards and eliminating players who don't fit our culture. He was planning to systematically remove anyone he deemed unworthy, creating some kind of elite inner circle. There are 6 more kids on his list for next season, Coach Kim said quietly. Good kids. Hard workers. He's going to destroy them the same way he's destroying you. The scope of it hit me like a truck. This wasn't just about me anymore. Coach Martinez was planning to turn our team into his personal kingdom, keeping only the players who fed his ego while crushing anyone who didn't meet his impossible standards. Why don't you stop him yourself? I asked. You're a coach too. Coach Kim's laugh was bitter. I'm an assistant coach on a 1-year contract. Martinez has tenure and 2 championship banners. If I speak up without ironclad proof, I'm the one who gets fired. The implication hung in the air between us. He needed my recording just as much as I needed his inside information. We were both trapped by Coach Martinez's power, but together we might actually have a chance. What are you proposing? I asked, though I think I already knew. Coach Kim looked me straight in the eye. Help me take him down properly. Not just exposure, complete removal. But it has to be airtight, and it has to be tomorrow. The clock was ticking, and everything was about to change. I stared at Coach Kim for a long moment, processing what he was asking. Tomorrow. The parent meeting is in less than 24 hours. Exactly, he said, pulling out a folder I hadn't noticed before. Martinez is planning to blindside those families. Make his cuts look justified by painting the players as lazy, unfocused, not committed to the program. He opened the folder, revealing printed emails and what looked like evaluation forms. But I've been documenting everything for months. Grade tampering, practice time favoritism, even equipment distribution based on his personal preferences. My eyes widened as I flipped through the papers. There were charts showing how Marcus and the other favorites got new gear while the rest of us made do with worn-out equipment. Email threads where Coach Martinez discussed managing playing time to keep certain parents happy, meaning the ones who donated to the booster club. This is... I started, then stopped. This is huge. Why haven't you used this already? Coach Kim's expression darkened. Because 3 weeks ago, I tried to bring some concerns to the athletic director privately. Next thing I know, Martinez is suggesting my position might be redundant next season. He's got connections throughout the district. I needed something undeniable. And my recording is that something? Your recording proves intent and character, he said. Combined with this documentation, it shows a pattern of discrimination and abuse of power that the school board can't ignore. I felt the weight of responsibility settling on my shoulders like a lead blanket. This wasn't just about getting revenge anymore. Coach Kim was asking me to help him save his job and protect future players. But the risks were enormous. What if it backfires? I asked. What if they find a way to spin this against us? Then we both go down, Coach Kim admitted. But if we do nothing, Martinez destroys more kids and I lose my job anyway. At least this way we fight back. Before I could respond, the sound of a car door slamming echoed through the gym. We both froze, listening to footsteps approaching the entrance. Coach Kim quickly stuffed the folder back into his bag and gestured for me to follow him toward the equipment room. Expecting someone? I whispered, my heart racing. No, he replied tersely. Stay quiet. The gym doors opened with their characteristic screech, and familiar voices filled the space. My blood turned to ice as I recognized them, Coach Martinez, and he wasn't alone. Told you it was suspicious, Marcus was saying. Johnson's car was definitely here Friday night after we left. Probably nothing, Coach Martinez replied, but his tone suggested he was taking it seriously. Kid's obsessed with proving himself. Probably came back to shoot around. They were walking onto the court now, their voices carrying clearly in the empty gym. Coach Kim and I were trapped in the equipment room, and I could see through the partially open door that we'd left the bleachers where we'd been sitting obviously disturbed. Coach, Marcus continued, what if he heard us talking? About the cuts and stuff. There was a long pause that made my stomach clench. Then Coach Martinez's voice came back harder, more calculating. Then we need to control the narrative before tomorrow. Can't have disgruntled players spreading rumors to upset parents. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a text message that seemed deafeningly loud in the confined space. Coach Kim shot me a panicked look as the voices on the court suddenly stopped. You hear that? Marcus asked. Footsteps started moving in our direction, and I realized we were about to be discovered with all the evidence that could destroy Coach Martinez's career. The recording on my phone, Coach Kim's documentation folder, and now proof that we'd been meeting secretly. We were caught, and tomorrow's parent meeting was about to become something none of us had planned for. The footsteps were getting closer. Coach Kim pressed his finger to his lips and pointed toward the back exit of the equipment room, a door that led to the maintenance hallway. We'd have to crawl behind the storage shelves to reach it without being seen. I stuffed my phone deeper into my pocket and dropped to my hands and knees, following Coach Kim as quietly as possible. The concrete floor was cold and gritty against my palms, and every small sound felt amplified. Behind us, I could hear Coach Martinez and Marcus getting closer to the equipment room. Check everywhere, Coach Martinez was saying. If someone's been snooping around, I want to know about it. We were halfway to the back door when my elbow knocked against a box of old uniforms. It shifted just enough to make a soft thud, barely audible, but in the dead silence of our hiding spot, it might as well have been a gunshot. The voices outside went quiet. Coach Kim grabbed my arm and pulled me faster toward the exit. We could hear the equipment room door being pushed open fully, footsteps entering the space we just occupied. Somebody was definitely here, Marcus said, and I could hear him moving boxes around. This stuff's been disturbed recently. My hand finally reached the back door handle. Coach Kim turned it slowly, praying it wouldn't squeak. The door opened into the maintenance hallway, a narrow corridor that connected to the main building. We slipped through just as I heard Coach Martinez's voice getting louder behind us. Check the security footage from this weekend, he was telling Marcus. I want to know who's been in this building and when. Security footage. My stomach dropped as we hurried down the hallway. I'd completely forgotten about the cameras. They'd have video of both Coach Kim and me entering the building, timestamps showing exactly when we'd met and for how long. We're screwed, I whispered as we reached the main building. Not yet, Coach Kim replied, but I could hear the tension in his voice. Security footage takes a few days to review unless there's an emergency. We still have until tomorrow if we move fast. We made it to the parking lot without being spotted, but as I reached my car, the full scope of our situation hit me. Coach Martinez was already suspicious. He had Marcus helping him investigate, and by tomorrow he'd have proof that Coach Kim and I had been conspiring against him. This changes everything, I said, leaning against my car door. He's going to know we're coming for him. Coach Kim nodded grimly. Which means tomorrow isn't just about exposing him anymore. It's about getting him first before he destroys both of us. He pulled out his phone and started typing rapidly. I'm calling an emergency meeting with the athletic director for tonight. Going to tell him I have serious concerns about tomorrow's parent meeting and Coach Martinez's conduct. But what about the security footage? What about Marcus knowing something's up? We use it, Coach Kim said, looking up from his phone with something that might have been determination or desperation. We tell the truth, that players were concerned about unfair treatment and came to me as an assistant coach. That I investigated and found evidence of serious misconduct. It was risky as hell, but it might work. If we could get ahead of Coach Martinez's narrative, frame our investigation as proper whistleblowing instead of secret recording. My phone buzzed with a text that made my blood freeze. Coach Martinez *, need to see you in my office first thing tomorrow before the parent meeting. 6:30 a.m. sharp. We have some things to discuss. He knew. Maybe not everything, but enough to be dangerous. Tomorrow's parent meeting was going to be a battlefield, and I was walking straight into enemy territory. Coach Kim saw my expression and grabbed my shoulder. Hey. We've come this far. You trust me? I looked at this man who was risking his career to help kids like me, then back at my phone with Coach Martinez's ominous message. Yeah, I said, surprised to find I meant it. I trust you. Then let's finish this. I spent Sunday afternoon pacing my bedroom like a caged animal, checking my phone obsessively for updates from Coach Kim. Every few minutes, I'd pull up the recording and watch it again, looking for details I might have missed, anything that could strengthen our case or blow it apart. At 3 p.m., my mom knocked on my door. Honey. You've been awfully quiet today. Everything okay for tomorrow's meeting? The innocence in her voice made my chest tight. She still had no idea what was coming, the humiliation, the end of her dreams for my basketball future, the wasted money on training camps and equipment. Yeah, Mom. Just nervous, I guess. She pushed the door open and sat on my bed, her work uniform wrinkled from another double shift. You know, I've been thinking about what Coach Martinez said at the parent meeting last month. My heart stopped. What do you mean? About how hard work always pays off eventually, she said, smiling. How the kids who stick with it are the ones who surprise everyone. I think he was talking about you specifically. I felt sick. Coach Martinez had never said anything remotely like that. Mom was creating conversations that had never happened, building hope on foundation made of air. Tomorrow was going to destroy her. My phone buzzed with a text from Coach Kim, *, meeting with AD is set for 7 p.m. tonight. Bringing everything. Stay ready. *. Who's that? Mom asked, noticing my phone. Just Jake, asking about tomorrow. She squeezed my shoulder. I'm so proud of how dedicated you've been this season. All those extra practices, staying late every day. It's going to pay off, I know it. After she left, I sat staring at my team photo on the dresser. There I was in the back row, skinny and awkward just like Coach Martinez had said, but my smile was genuine. I believed in myself then. Believed in the system, in fairness, in the idea that hard work mattered. At 4:30, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Johnson, it's Marcus. His voice was different than usual, less cocky, more cautious. Look, I need to tell you something about tomorrow. My pulse spiked. What about it? Coach Martinez he's planning something big for the parent meeting. Not just cuts. He's got this whole presentation about program standards and accountability. He's going to make examples of people. Why are you telling me this? There was a long pause. Because what he said Friday night was messed up, okay? I laughed along because, I don't know, I was trying to stay on his good side. But thinking about it all weekend, that was your mom working extra shifts he was making jokes about. I gripped the phone tighter. Was Marcus genuinely feeling guilty, or was this some kind of trap? He's planning to show stats and metrics to the parents, Marcus continued. Comparing players' contributions to make the cuts look scientific. But he's manipulating the numbers. Like, he's counting the scrimmage where you were sick as proof you're unreliable. My mind raced. If Coach Martinez had fabricated data to justify his decisions, that was another layer of evidence. But it also meant tomorrow's meeting would be even more devastating than I'd imagined. Marcus, why are you really calling me? Because Coach Kim isn't the only one who's been keeping records, he said quietly. And because my little brother starts high school next year. He wants to try out for JV. The implications hit me like lightning. Marcus wasn't just protecting me, he was protecting his brother from becoming Coach Martinez's next victim. Meet me tonight, I said suddenly. Bring whatever you have. Everything was accelerating toward tomorrow's showdown, and the battle lines were shifting in ways none of us had expected. Marcus and I met at the 24-hour diner on Route 9, the kind of place where truckers and insomniacs nursed coffee at fluorescent-lit tables. He slid into the booth across from me looking like he hadn't slept, a manila envelope clutched in his hands. This is crazy, he muttered, glancing around nervously. If Coach finds out I'm here. He's already suspicious about everything, I said. What did you bring? Marcus opened the envelope and spread papers across the sticky table surface. My eyes widened as I recognized what I was looking at, practice attendance sheets with names crossed out and rewritten, game statistics that had clearly been altered, and most damning of all, a group chat screenshot between Coach Martinez and some booster club parents. Holy shit, Marcus. Where did you get these? Coach isn't as careful with his phone as he thinks, Marcus said quietly. Last week after practice, he left it unlocked on his desk while he went to talk to the janitor. I was waiting to ask about starting positions and saw the group chat notification pop up. I read the messages with growing horror. Coach Martinez was literally taking requests from wealthy parents about which players should get more court time. One message thread showed a booster offering to fund new uniforms in exchange for guaranteed starter minutes for his son. This is straight up corruption, I breathed. It gets worse, Marcus said, pulling out his own phone. He's been running 2 different stat sheets all season. The real ones, and fake ones he shows parents during conferences. He showed me side-by-side spreadsheets. According to the fake stats, I had the worst shooting percentage on the team and the highest turnover rate. The real stats showed I was actually middle of the pack in both categories, not spectacular, but far from the disaster coach had painted me as. Marcus, this proves everything. Why are you giving this to me? He ran his hands through his hair, looking genuinely tortured. Because I've been watching him destroy kids for 3 years, and I just went along with it because it benefited me. Tyler Morrison from last year's team. Remember how coach said he quit because he couldn't handle the pressure? I nodded. Tyler had been a decent player, quiet kid, good grades. He didn't quit. Coach made his life hell until his parents pulled him from the team. Had us freeze him out during drills, accidentally forgot to give him the schedule for away games. Tyler's dad called my dad asking what happened, because Tyler came home crying every day. My stomach churned. I'd noticed Tyler becoming more isolated that season, but I'd been so focused on my own struggles I hadn't connected the dots. There's more, Marcus continued. Coach Kim isn't the only staff member who's been questioning things. The JV coach, Ms. Rodriguez from the athletic department, even some of the other varsity coaches. He's been slowly turning everyone against each other, making sure no one trusts anyone else enough to compare notes. A divide and conquer strategy. Exactly. But now people are starting to talk anyway. Ms. Rodriguez has been asking questions about why so many promising JV players decide to focus on academics instead of moving up to varsity. My phone buzzed with a text from Coach Kim, *AD meeting went well. Bringing in school board representative tomorrow. Need you there at 6 a.m. instead of meeting with Martinez. Can you make it? *. I showed the message to Marcus. Coach wants me in his office at 6:30. Coach Kim wants me with the administration at 6. Marcus's eyes widened. That's not a coincidence. Coach Martinez moved your meeting time to make sure you can't be there when Coach Kim presents evidence. The manipulation was so calculated it made me feel sick. Even now, hours before everything exploded, Coach Martinez was still playing chess while the rest of us scrambled to keep up. I have to choose, I realized. Show up for Coach Martinez and miss my chance to tell my side to the administration, or skip his meeting and give him ammunition to claim I'm insubordinate. Marcus leaned forward, his voice urgent. There's a third option. What if you're not the one who has to choose? Marcus pulled out his phone and started typing rapidly. I'm texting the whole team. Emergency player meeting tomorrow at 6 a.m. in the main hallway outside the gym. What? Marcus, that's insane. Coach will lose his mind if he finds out. Good, Marcus said, his voice harder than I'd ever heard it. Let him lose his mind. You know what I realized sitting in that diner booth for the last hour? We've all been so afraid of him that we forgot we outnumber him. I stared at him as message confirmation started popping up on his screen. Jake responding immediately with, WTF is going on? Tyler asking if this was about cuts. Even some of the JV players were getting looped in. This is going to backfire, I said, but even as the words came out, I felt something shifting inside me. The players he favors aren't going to turn against him. Maybe not all of them, Marcus admitted. But Devin texted me yesterday asking if I thought coach's treatment of certain players was fair. And Jake's been keeping his own notes about practice time distribution because his dad's been asking questions. My phone was buzzing non-stop now as the group chat Marcus had started exploded with messages. Players who hadn't spoken to each other all season were suddenly comparing experiences, sharing stories I'd never heard. Jake *, wait, other people have been getting different practice schedules. Tyler *, coach told my parents I was attitude problem, but never said anything to me directly. Devin *, anyone else notice how stats in the program don't match what we actually did? Sophomore JV kid I barely knew *, same thing happened to my friend last year before he transferred schools. It's working, Marcus said, showing me his screen. Look at this. He scrolled through message after message of players sharing experiences that painted a picture of systematic psychological manipulation. The fake statistics, the arbitrary punishment, the way Coach Martinez would pit players against each other by sharing private conversations. But then my blood went cold as I saw a new message pop up. Unknown number *, interesting conversation you boys are having. See you bright and early tomorrow. Coach Martinez. Shit, Marcus breathed. He's monitoring the group chat. How is that possible? Marcus's face went pale. Team phones. Remember? He made us install that app at the beginning of the season for communication and accountability. I bet it has monitoring software. The realization hit like a truck. Every text, every private conversation, every moment we thought we were talking freely, Coach Martinez had been watching it all. Which meant he knew about my recording, about Coach Kim's evidence, about everything. My phone rang immediately. Coach Martinez. Don't answer it, Marcus said quickly. But it rang again. Then again. Then it switched to texting. Coach Martinez *, Johnson, pick up your phone. Now. Coach Martinez *, I know what you think you have on me. We need to discuss this privately. Coach Martinez *, don't make this harder than it needs to be. The messages kept coming, each one more threatening than the last. Other players in the group chat started posting screenshots of similar messages they were receiving. Coach Martinez was in full panic mode, trying to intimidate multiple players simultaneously. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of backing down, the group chat started buzzing with angry responses. Jake *, anyone else getting threatened right now? Tyler *, yeah, this is ridiculous. Coaches aren't supposed to harass players. Devin *, screenshot everything. This is evidence of intimidation. Marcus looked at me with something like amazement. He overplayed his hand. Instead of scaring everyone into silence, he just proved everything we'd been saying. My phone rang again. This time it was Coach Kim. Are you somewhere safe? He asked immediately when I picked up. I'm with Marcus at. Don't say we're over the phone, Coach Kim interrupted. Martinez has been calling the athletic director non-stop for the last hour trying to get tomorrow's meeting cancelled. He knows we have him cornered, and desperate people do desperate things. Through the diner window, I saw headlights pulling into the parking lot. A familiar pickup truck that made my stomach drop. Coach Kim, I said quietly, I think we're about to find out just how desperate. The pickup truck's headlights cut through the diner's windows as it pulled into a parking space directly in front of our booth. Marcus grabbed the papers and shoved them back into the envelope with shaking hands. Back exit, I whispered into the phone to Coach Kim. We're going out the back exit now. But as we stood up, I saw Coach Martinez's silhouette getting out of the truck. He wasn't alone, assistant Coach Rivers was with him, the one coach I thought might be neutral in all this. My heart sank as I realized Coach Martinez had been building his own alliance while we'd been planning ours. Too late, Marcus muttered. He's coming to the front door. Through the phone, Coach Kim's voice was urgent, stay calm. You're in a public place with witnesses. He can't do anything too crazy. But I wasn't so sure. The way Coach Martinez moved across the parking lot looked predatory, focused. This wasn't a man planning to have a reasonable conversation. The diner's bell chimed as the door opened. The overnight waitress looked up from her magazine as Coach Martinez scanned the room. When his eyes landed on our booth, his expression was unreadable, not angry exactly, but something colder. Gentlemen, he said, approaching our table with Coach Rivers trailing behind. Fancy meeting you here. Coach, Marcus said, his voice carefully neutral. We were just grabbing some food after. Cut the bullshit, Marcus. Coach Martinez slid into the booth next to me, effectively trapping me against the wall. Coach Rivers stood at the end of the table, blocking any escape route. We need to have an honest conversation about tomorrow. The waitress was pretending to clean glasses at the counter, but I could see her watching our table nervously. A trucker in the corner booth had looked up from his coffee. At least there were witnesses. I don't know what you think you heard Friday night, Coach Martinez continued, his voice low but carrying an unmistakable threat. But sometimes players misunderstand things. Context gets lost. Innocent conversations get blown out of proportion. There wasn't anything innocent about what you said, I managed, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. Coach Martinez's smile was razor thin. Prove it. The challenge hung in the air between us. He was calling my bluff, betting that I didn't actually have concrete evidence. But the confidence in his voice made me wonder if he knew something I didn't. The group chat tonight was illuminating, Coach Rivers added, speaking for the first time. Lot of disgruntled players sharing stories. Amazing how memory can be unreliable when people are upset about playing time. My stomach dropped. They weren't just here to intimidate us, they were here to discredit everything before tomorrow's meeting. Paint it all as the complaints of bitter benchwarmers. Marcus's phone buzzed on the table. A text from an unknown number, asterisk, your parents' address is 1247, Oak Street, right? Nice house. Asterisk. Marcus went pale. You're threatening my family now. Not threatening, Coach Martinez said smoothly. Just making sure everyone understands what's at stake. Your dad's construction company does a lot of work with school district contracts, doesn't it, Marcus? Would hate for that relationship to get complicated. The casual way he said it made my blood run cold. This wasn't just about basketball anymore, Coach Martinez was threatening people's livelihoods, their family's security. My phone buzzed with Coach Kim still on the line, I can hear everything. Recording this conversation. Stay strong. Coach Martinez noticed my phone. Who are you talking to, Johnson? Nobody, I said, but he was already reaching for it. Let me see that phone. No. The word came out stronger than I felt. Coach Martinez's expression darkened. That wasn't a request. The tension in the diner ratcheted up another notch, and I realized this confrontation was about to escalate beyond anything I'd prepared for. The standoff over my phone stretched for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. Coach Martinez's hand was halfway across the table when the diner's bell chimed again, and 3 more people walked in. My heart sank as I recognized them, Mr. Peterson, the athletic director, along with 2 school board members I'd seen at games. But instead of relief, I felt panic. If Coach Martinez could manipulate this situation, make it look like we were the aggressors. Gentlemen, Mr. Peterson said, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to breaking up conflicts. Interesting place for a team meeting. Coach Martinez smoothly withdrew his hand and stood up, instantly transforming back into the composed professional everyone knew. Paul, good to see you. Just having a friendly chat with some of our players about tomorrow's meeting. Friendly chat at 11 p.m. in a diner, one of the school board members asked, raising an eyebrow. That seems unusual. Kids these days keep odd hours, Coach Martinez replied with a practiced laugh. You know how it is with teenagers, everything's a crisis that can't wait until morning. I caught Marcus's eye across the table. Coach Martinez was already spinning the narrative, making us look like dramatic kids who'd blown things out of proportion. But then Marcus did something that surprised everyone, including me. He stood up and addressed Mr. Peterson directly. Sir, we weren't having a friendly chat. Coach Martinez came here to intimidate us because we've been documenting his misconduct. The words hung in the air like a bomb. Coach Rivers stepped forward, but Mr. Peterson held up a hand. That's a serious accusation, son. It's a serious situation, Marcus replied, pulling out his envelope of evidence. We have documented proof of grade manipulation, financial improprieties with booster parents, and systematic harassment of players. Coach Martinez's composed mask slipped for just a moment. Mr. Peterson, these boys are upset about roster decisions. This is exactly the kind of drama I was hoping to avoid by having a private conversation with them. Private conversation. I found my voice again. You threatened Marcus's family and tried to grab my phone. That's not what happened, Coach Rivers interjected quickly. These players have been spreading rumors and... My phone, which had been silent during the confrontation, suddenly rang loudly. Coach Kim's name appeared on the screen, and without thinking, I answered it on speaker. Johnson, are you okay? Coach Kim's voice filled the diner. I heard everything through the call. Mr. Peterson, I'm glad you're there. We need to discuss the evidence I submitted to you earlier tonight. Mr. Peterson's expression shifted from confused to concerned. Coach Kim, where are you right now? On my way to the school with additional documentation. Some players have come forward tonight with evidence of systematic misconduct that goes back multiple seasons. The color drained from Coach Martinez's face. Whatever plan he'd had for controlling this situation was falling apart in real time. This is absurd, he said, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. A conspiracy between a disgruntled assistant coach and some benchwarmers who can't accept their role on the team. One of the school board members stepped forward, studying the tension in the room. Coach Martinez, I think it would be best if you came with us right now. We need to have a comprehensive discussion about tomorrow's meeting. I have nothing to hide, Coach Martinez replied, but he was already backing toward the door. But I won't be ambushed by false accusations from players who... Nobody's ambushing anyone, Mr. Peterson said firmly. But this situation has clearly escalated beyond normal team dynamics. We're moving tomorrow's parent meeting to next week, and we'll be conducting individual interviews with all relevant parties. As the adults filed out of the diner, leaving Marcus and me alone with our lukewarm coffee and racing hearts, I realized that everything we'd set in motion was now completely out of our control. Tomorrow was supposed to be the end of this nightmare, but instead, it was looking like just the beginning. Monday morning arrived like a funeral march. I barely slept, checking my phone every few minutes for updates that never came. By 5:30 a.m., I was sitting in my mom's car outside the school, watching the empty parking lot and trying to convince myself I wasn't about to destroy everything. Mom had left early for her shift, still believing today would bring good news about my basketball future. I'd watched her pack a lunch with extra care, humming while she made my favorite sandwich for after your big meeting. The guilt was eating me alive. At 5:45, cars started arriving. Coach Kim's truck, then Mr. Peterson's sedan, followed by two vehicles I didn't recognize, probably more school board members. The cavalry was assembling, but I still felt like I was walking into battle with a slingshot. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, asterisk, Coach Martinez never came home last night. My dad's friend lives on his street. His truck isn't in the driveway. Asterisk. That sent ice through my veins. Where was he? What was he planning? Another text, this one from Jake, asterisk, dude, did you see the local news website this morning? Asterisk. I frantically opened the browser, and my heart stopped. There it was, posted just an hour ago. Local high school basketball coach alleges player harassment campaign. The article was short but devastating. Coach Martinez had apparently contacted the newspaper directly, painting himself as the victim of a coordinated attack by disgruntled players with poor academic and athletic performance. He'd provided quotes about false accusations designed to avoid accountability and the concerning trend of students attempting to manipulate authority figures. Worse yet, he'd somehow gotten ahead of our evidence. The article mentioned that anonymous recordings and falsified documents had been circulated, but framed them as fabrications by angry teenagers rather than legitimate proof of misconduct. Son of a bitch, I muttered, then immediately felt guilty for swearing. But Coach Martinez had just played the media card, and he'd played it first. By the time anyone heard our side of the story, we'd look like we were making desperate excuses. My phone rang. Coach Kim. Did you see the article? I asked immediately. Unfortunately, yes. Martinez got to the newspaper around midnight, apparently. But don't panic, this might actually work in our favor. How could this possibly work in our favor? Because he made specific claims that we can disprove, Coach Kim explained. He said the recordings were anonymous and falsified. But you're willing to go on record, and we have the original files with metadata proving when and where they were recorded. That made sense, but I could already imagine how this would play out in the court of public opinion. A respected coach with 8 years at the school versus a bench player with an axe to grind. There's something else, Coach Kim continued. Mr. Peterson wants to meet with you privately before the larger meeting. Just you, him, and one school board representative. They want to hear your story directly, without any other influences. What about Marcus and his evidence? He'll present separately. They're treating each piece of this puzzle individually to avoid claims of coordination. At exactly 6 a.m., I walked through the main entrance of the school. The hallways felt different in the pre-dawn quiet, bigger somehow, more intimidating. My footsteps echoed off the lockers as I made my way to Mr. Peterson's office. But as I turned the corner toward the administrative wing, I stopped dead in my tracks. There, sitting on the bench outside the principal's office, was my mom. She was wearing her best dress, the one she saved for parent-teacher conferences and church, and clutching her purse with white knuckles. When she saw me, her face lit up with a smile that made my chest ache. Surprise, honey. I managed to switch shifts so I could be here for your big day. She had no idea she was about to watch her son's dreams, and her own, get torn apart in front of a room full of strangers. And now there was no way to protect her from what was coming. The sight of my mom sitting there in her best dress, beaming with pride, nearly broke my resolve completely. But as I walked toward her, I realized something had shifted inside me. This wasn't just about protecting myself anymore, it was about protecting her from coaches like Martinez who would exploit her sacrifices. Mom, I said, sitting down beside her. Before we go in there, I need to tell you something. Her smile faltered slightly. What's wrong, honey? I took a deep breath and told her everything. The overheard conversations, the recording, the systematic favoritism, the threats. Her expression cycled through confusion, disbelief, and finally, a fierce anger I'd never seen before. That man, she said quietly, has been lying to my face for months. Mr. Peterson appeared in his office doorway. We're ready for you both. Inside, the school board representative introduced herself as Mrs. Chen, and they explained the process. I would present my evidence, they would review everything Coach Kim and Marcus had provided, and then they would make their decision about Coach Martinez's future. I played the recording. The room went dead silent as Coach Martinez's voice filled the space, mocking my efforts and my family's sacrifices. I watched my mom's hands clench in her lap as he laughed about the money she'd spent on my training. When it ended, Mrs. Chen was typing furiously on her laptop. "This is deeply concerning," Mr. Peterson said finally. "Combined with the evidence Coach Kim provided and the documentation from Marcus, this paints a picture of systematic abuse of authority." "What happens now?" my mom asked, her voice steady but cold. "Coach Martinez has been suspended pending a full investigation," Mrs. Chen replied. "Coach Kim will serve as interim head coach for the remainder of the season. And will be implementing new oversight procedures for all athletic programs." The relief was overwhelming, but it was mixed with something else, uncertainty. "What about the team? The other players?" "There will be a complete roster review," Mr. Peterson assured me. "Based on actual performance metrics, not personal favoritism. Every player will get a fair evaluation." As we left the office, my mom put her arm around my shoulders. "I'm proud of you," she said simply. "Not for basketball. For standing up." 2 weeks later, I was warming up for our first game under Coach Kim's leadership. The atmosphere in the gym was completely different, lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted from everyone's shoulders. Marcus had stepped up as team captain, Jake was finally getting the playing time his skills deserved, and 3 players who'd been cut by Coach Martinez had been invited back. I still wasn't a starter. Probably never would be. But when Coach Kim called my name in the second quarter, I jogged to the scorer's table knowing I'd earned my spot through actual merit, not politics. The local newspaper had run a follow-up story about the investigation's findings. Coach Martinez had quietly resigned and left town. Several parents had come forward with their own stories of corruption and favoritism. The athletic department had implemented new policies requiring transparency in player evaluations. But the best part came during halftime when my mom found me in the hallway outside the locker room. "How does it feel?" she asked. I thought about it for a moment, hearing the crowd cheering and my teammates laughing together in the locker room, actually together now, not split into factions. "Like we can finally just play basketball," I said. She smiled, and for the first time in months, it reached her eyes. "Good. That's all it should have been from the beginning." Walking back onto that court, I realized I'd learned something more valuable than any basketball skill. Sometimes the most important victory isn't winning the game, but making sure everyone gets a fair chance to play.